Hello, dear listeners of APPA. My name is Christiana Dykman. I am the Director of Education at APPA, the Association for Prenatal and Perinatal Psychology and Health. I wear a lot of hats during my day, and these different roles, at times I'm a psychosomatic therapist, a cranial sacral therapist, a massage therapist. I am a mother, a daughter, a wife, a friend, a colleague. And despite all these different hats that I wear, they all have one thing in common. Each of these roles, I carry a relational space with other human beings. And that's what I'm here to talk about today, the energetic relational space between you and I. Lynn McTaggart describes it in her book, The Field. It's an invisible energy force, yet it's all around us. It's even if you watch Star Wars and you hear of the Force be with you. Perhaps you can tune into it just now. Just feel your body and notice what you feel like. Early on in my life, I was always keenly aware of this energetic space that I held within myself and what energy was in my space from others. It was a gift and a curse. And in the earlier years of my life, I unconsciously spent a lot of time staying busy, not slowing down enough to tune into this energy field. And if I did slow down, I didn't enjoy feeling the pollution that had been stockpiled in my space. But I didn't realize that the pollution I was carrying wasn't just mine. It was pollution that had gathered over the ages, from family members that came before me, from interactions that my family members had with others in their energetic relational space. I was finally forced to confront this pollution in my space after the birth of my first child, Audrey. And that's why I'm here today, to share a compelling personal story of suffering, compassion, and hopefully you will find hope like I have. But first, I want to segue just for a moment, and I want to have you reflect on two different images and just notice what happens into your body, or what happens in your body when you notice the images. The first image is sourced from Dr. Masaru Emoto's water crystal experiments. Dr. Emoto was a Japanese researcher who claimed human consciousness has an effect on the molecular structure of water. And one of the experiments he did was to place different written words on water to note the effect it had on the molecular structure. So first, look at this picture and just notice what you feel. The words he put on this water bottle was, "You are beautiful." And he famously said, "Words are the vibration of nature. Therefore, beautiful words create beautiful nature, and ugly words create ugly nature. This is the root of the universe." So now for the second image I'm going to put up here is the image, the words here are, "You disgust me." You disgust me. And I would like for you to just hold that image and notice how it makes you feel, or if there are any differences from the first images. And I just want you to carry these images in your hearts and minds for the time being, while we take into consideration the reality of the world we are in just now. Today, the world is changing so fast. Every second, it's impossible to keep up. There is an old way of thinking and a new way of thinking. The buzzword everyone hears now is consciousness, being aware. But how does this apply to today's talk about birth psychology? In the old way of thinking, we treat the birthing parent, the mother, while regarding the baby as a developing being with an immature nervous system, a being that cannot feel, think for itself, or truly understand the happenings going on around it. An interesting paradox envelops babies, though. We have this societal misconception that babies can't feel or sense, yet most of us have witnessed moments when babies radiate a sense of innocence, and purity from their beings, so much that it's contagious when you gaze into their eyes. You share a moment of connection. What is this phenomenon? It's the energetic relational space that babies carry. It's their blueprint. This is what I want to highlight today. For me, the relational energetic space is at the heart of birth psychology. And bringing awareness to this relational space, or what Lynn McTaggart so famously coined as the field, is the very essence of conscious thinking. Every human being in the world is impacted by birth psychology. Every energetic imprint we are exposed to in utero is stored in our bodies, and it shapes how our bodies and psyches come into form. So every action, every thought, every field tone in a baby's space matters. Did you know the human eye can only detect 0.1% of the electromagnetic energy around us? I like comparing this to a cell phone. We're all familiar with cell phones. Have you ever thought about how Wi-Fi actually works? When you pick up the phone, call a friend, it's instantaneous. And yet the vibration of our voice, we can't see our voice, but we understand somehow it's transmuted into data that crosses an energetic field of space and time. And it transfers over to the other person's phone across the country or the world. And instantaneously, we can be in connection with that person despite distance or the physical reality that we cannot see. So I want you to recall those water images that I showed you just a few moments ago. And I want you to think about what this means for a baby growing inside of a medium of water, because the fetus is 90% water. What shapes are we imprinting upon the molecular structure of this developing being by the words and emotions we are carrying in our energetic space? And with that question, let's just take a pause and consider some really startling statistics that are here in the United States where I happen to reside. But a lot of these statistics coincide with other areas of the world as well. In the US, according to the CDC, 1 in 54 children had a diagnosis of autism by the age of 8 in 2016. And a 10% increase over ADHD cases were also recorded. Since then, we have seen steep increases of both autism and ADHD, not only in the US, but globally. And interestingly enough, the average American that takes prescription medication takes 4 medications a day. 45.8% of the US population in the year 2016 was recorded as taking a prescription drug. That's almost half of the US population that uses prescriptions. Today, in 2021, 66% of US adults take prescription drugs. And out of those numbers, 18% of children aged 0 to 11 use prescription drugs. 27% of adolescents aged 12 to 19 use prescription drugs. Most of these drugs fall in the bracket as either stimulants or depressants of the autonomic nervous system. And alongside of this news of where we are with medication in today's world, Kamala Harris kicked off the first ever maternal health call to action summit in January 2021. They released data that 1 in 5 women will suffer from a maternal mental health disorder like postpartum depression. And maternal depression is the most common complication of birth, yet in the US, most women are never even diagnosed. And those that are, less than 15% of them will even receive treatment for it. According to the Mom Congress statistics, 1 in 7 women will experience depression during pregnancy. 37% of anxiety and depression has risen in our teenage girls who are one day going to have to, who one day may suffer from postpartum depression. The United States has the highest maternal mortality rate of any high resource country. Black women are 3 times more likely to die in childbirth than white women in America. Considering these statistics, what type of energetic relational spaces are our babies entering into in this planet? I wonder. I know what it was for me and for my children. But there's hope. And I know there's hope because of my own personal story. Birth psychology saved my life. It moved me to shift my state of being in my autonomic nervous system, this energetic space I carry into relational fields with others. I changed my career path in my late 30s after having 2 children of my own and after experiencing firsthand what is happening to women, babies, and families in the world. My energetic relational space I carried around from as early as I can remember. I was high functioning, overachiever, yet I was falling apart on the inside. My family was broken and had been broken generations before. And when I got pregnant, I had no idea what was in store for me. I took a prenatal education class. Okay. And I read a book, What to Expect While Expecting. Nothing prepared me for what I was to encounter. And I ended up having a C-section because my daughter was breech. And so many afflictions ailed her for the first 7 years of her life, from colic, anger, explosive temper tantrums that would have an hour and a half duration, chronic ear infections, gut issues, eczema, behavioral issues, night terrors, bathroom challenges, inexplicable fears. The list kind of goes on, and it was very stressful. Yet she's this brilliant little girl who's full of life, love, and smiles. And I'll put a picture of her now. When she wrapped her fingers around mine for the first time, her hot little breath brushed against my skin, and I was swept away by unconditional love. And an energy took over me like I had never felt before. I would do anything for this little girl. Of course, all these hardships we endured in our first couple years of life sent me over the edge. I had a mental, physical, emotional, spiritual breakdown by the time she was 4. I woke up with 4 slip discs in my cervical spine and I could not function. I was headed for another downward spiral. I wasn't getting answers from the classical ways of modern medicine. I was given heavy narcotics and the option of back surgery, but no answers as to what was causing my suffering. This is when I discovered the field of birth psychology. And knowing what I know now, I wish we had this curriculum that we have at APA in every medical school, every OBGYN track, every school health class, even in our public school system, because bringing awareness to the energetic relational space we carry through the states of our being in our autonomic nervous system, what we call polyvagal theory. This is what we can put to work in our life with simple tactics such as taking time outs, mindfulness, breathing, teaching this to our elementary children, such a young age. All of it about regulation of how we handle stimulation in our bodies. And skipping forward to today, after I went through such a healing journey with craniosacral therapy, through pre and perinatal psychology studies, a host of somatic-based therapy trainings, I'm completely rewired. You can say I'm born again in my autonomic nervous system, thanks to the knowledge of birth psychology and somatic therapy practices. Now I'm on a mission to save the planet, and more to the point, change how we view birth and babies. Because I discovered on my path of learning, birth psychology is how to master the energetic relational space between human beings. And so far, we've been driven by disconnection rather than emotional connection. For me, birth psychology is about the human biological imperative that we are meant to be in connection with together, in connection with one another. And you might be wondering, but I'm in connection with people all the time. And this is where I paint you a picture of a story of my daughter's birth through the lens of information I gleaned from birth psychology. And I'm going to ask you, are you really connected? Can you be more connected, more aware? Can you change patterns that are entrenched in your nervous system? When I got pregnant, I had so much hardship in the beginning. I didn't think I could handle having a child due to my financial situation at the time, my job. I was barely meeting my own emotional and psychological needs. I was scared and alone. And I didn't realize that I had this little being growing inside of me, marinating in the energy of my space. Heart math was lost to me. I had no idea that my baby attuned to my circadian rhythms and my heartbeat. If that's the case, now I know why she was so frenetic when she was a little baby. But just to pause and consider what it felt like her for the day of her C-section. I had inexplicable rushes of fear and panic throughout that morning, and especially when I was on that operating table ready to receive my epidural. I never communicated with her. In fact, I had been communicating with everyone around me, my family, my best friend who was there, but I wasn't speaking to her. It was as if she must have been in a corner by herself. People were talking about her and around her, but not to her. And there is no gentleness about a C-section. When I was on that table in this fog of ambiguity and fear, I was being rocked from side to side. And I realize now, gosh, what did she go through when their doctor put his hands inside and ripped her out of my stomach, out of my womb? And then she was quickly, sent over to the nurses, pricked and prodded, washed. She screamed so loud. I still see her face, that wrinkled face of her, utter her screams. After all of this, I felt like a huge failure. I was exhausted, distraught. I was a mess by the time my daughter was 4 years of age. All the while, now I know that this energetic physiology in my body is what Candace Pert, the internationally recognized neuroscience and pharmacologist, so famously coined as the molecules of emotion. If I just consider from my little baby's perspective how she was handled, what she felt, I came to realize she was born into an energetic war zone here in the United States of America. All because of stress and the level of stress that I carried and my family carried, and just how we carry ourselves in our normal day in, day out work environment. On the surface, she was getting all of her physical needs met, yet so much more could have been given to her. And this is where I remind myself of this image I showed you earlier. You disgust me. That's what I think of now, because if I was consciously treated the way she was treated at her birth, and even in the womb, I would definitely hold the message in my heart space that I must be something worth hurting. I must be something worth targeting for suffering, because we're not conscious of our birth rituals and what we put our babies through. So now I'm just going to invite you to take a pause, take a moment to breathe. Breathe into your being. Fill yourself with just some self-care. And I want you to think about what I just described. Are you getting a sense that my daughter and I were truly connected? Just consider for a moment that my relational space and hers, they were next to each other, but we were miles apart from the inside. She was alone and I was alone. And I had been throwing all of my emotions into the relational space between us. I was polluting the space. There was no bridge. And for me, this is where birth psychology builds hope for the world. It is a bridge. It was the bridge that I was able to build from my heart to my daughter's heart. And along the journey of deepening my awareness, I became enthralled with the energetic aspect of human beings. We are pockets of energy. Bruce Lipton's Biology of Belief, Candace Pert's Molecules of Emotion, Francis Mott's Universal Design of Creation, Thomas Verney's book, The Secret Life of the Unborn Child. The list goes on and on. I stand on the shoulders of giants, people who went before me and pioneered all this awareness so that I could become more conscious. Birth psychology helped me understand my emotions and where they are coming from. And what are emotions? They're natural born energetic rights that are entitled to every human being. They are about connection, purpose, meaning, joy, freedom. They're bubbles of life-giving energy, and they are the essence of our soul. And so when I consider the events as of late that are happening, these acts of inexplicable violence you see in the news, polarizing politics, systemic disease, anxiety, depression, I no longer look at a person and think, why are they this way? Rather, I wonder, what happened to them? What energetics are in their relational fields? What kind of pollution was put there? And what kind of bridge can we build to connect to their heart, to their emotions, to their soul? So I'm inviting everyone today who's listening that we can change this world together. And I'm reaching out, holding my hand out to you, building a bridge through birth psychology, sending an invitation. I want to know more about you and your story. I want to be with you in your passion. That is the essence of compassion, is being with. Thank you. 2023 is APA's 40th anniversary, and my wish is that the world comes to know what compassionate birth practices are and how they impact every single being on this planet. I hope you are moved to take action. Look at our website, birthpsychology.com, explore a signature PPNE program. We have so much free content available to those who are seekers. I promise APA will open doors for you and build countless bridges to the hearts of all those who encounter your energetic relational space. Thank you.